Buenas noches. And before we go anywhere, I'm still totally 100% fully aware that everything that I say is subject to the algorithm, isn't it? So I'm sure there's somebody up there somewhere going, no, we don't want that, we'll send it over to that one there, or you know what I mean. Dice are loaded, not in our favour. The Egyptian labyrinth. A labyrinth. I saw the beginning of this programme. I missed the first I don't know how many minutes. So I was sucked in. Right? What the? But a couple of things were said, and then I went, hang on. And I rewound. Remember, I am not attacking anybody, but somebody has to say something. And I have lots and lots of books, okay? So let's just warm up a little bit.
And Atlantis might have been discovered, or it might be certainly a big step forward in the search for that. So all of that's really interesting.
Coming up
to see that. But what's interesting to me is you know, what if I told you a couple of things, that a massive ancient underground structure in Egypt has already been discovered. That its discovery was done through scanning technology. In fact, it's been scanned several times with technology just like these technologies that you've been hearing about, and it's absolutely been confirmed to exist.
That right there. It's absolutely been confirmed to exist. And that's it. No questions. That's it. We just have to accept. This is where it starts straight away, isn't it? Now, let's carry on.
This also isn't something new. It's not something that you could consider.
Let's go to, I'll go straight to 7 and do the Google thing. Me? I'm not a big fan of Google. I mean, it's good, but it's subjective. And NASA and Google have been working together since 2005, give or take a year. Guys, I don't think they went to the moon either. 6 successful moon landings between 1969 and 1972. And people think it's the flag that gives the game away. Mamma mia. Google.
And in looking into this, if you want to get an idea for just how twisted some of that Greek mythology can get, then take a look at exactly how the Minotaur came to be, and I'll let you guys Google that one on your own a little bit later.
That right there, sucked in. I put gotcha. Because Google is not these books, and these books are printed. And I have encyclopedias from 1961, 66, 71, 72, 74, 77, 79, 84, and then I think 89, 92. And a couple of randoms as well, okay? The whole collection of each of those years. Now, 735, Siculus. Let's start off with Siculus. Let's
Stories about Poseidon and King Minos and Whitefall and King Minos' wife, it doesn't really matter. However, so the idea for this labyrinth, and indeed that's where the word comes from, right? Labyrinth, from the Greek, it is essentially referring to this structure on Crete that King Minos had built by Daedalus. If you go back to historical figures, this was known, and in fact, one historical figure that wrote about the labyrinth and talked about this myth specifically was a guy named Diodorus Siculus, who lived in the 1st century BC.
Diodorus Siculus. Now, I could go through each of these books and we could go through them together and I'll show you every page number. But I don't think that's necessary, okay? I'll show a few, I can do a few randoms. Now, this is about tales from the ancients, okay? Now, the first book, those of you who follow my shenanigans will know it's my 1961, right? Popular science. Now, there is no mention of a Siculus or a Pomponius. Now, when I say there is no mention of a Siculus and Pomponius, I am not saying in this book. What I'm saying is there is no, I'm talking zero mention of Siculus or Pomponius in any of these encyclopedias. There is not a, when I say, I don't exaggerate, I'm always objective, right? And I'm not a liar. When I say that the tales that this Siculus, right, has written about somewhere, there is not one single mention in 8 or 9 sets of encyclopedias. Not one. They don't exist. So up until 1992, how did this happen? How is it possible that these names aren't in here, right? Siculus, 96. Let's go to the 1966. See, I'm not telling. I mean, it would be crazy to tell porcupines, wouldn't it, at this stage of the game? So that. So Siberia, S-I-B, S-I-C, Sicily, and then Sicily at the top. So we're still Sicu, S-I-C-U. We're on S-I-C-I. We're looking for the next vowel. No, that would be O. So you haven't been totally transparent, right? Sicily. And then it goes Sid. So there, don't mistake what I'm saying for anything other than what I'm saying. These people do not exist. They have never existed. This happened back in the Galileo days as well, where I've always said that they feed names in whenever they feel like it. If I hadn't stepped up, Siculus and Pomponius would have been household names. For this generation, they might be like the Galileo and the Kepler, right? These people do not exist. The Macmillan Dictionary of Biography. This is one of my favourite books, right? Herodotus yet, Petri yet, Pliny the Elder yet. No Pomponius and no Siculus. Now, this is some serious stuff because there are claims being made about people that are not mentioned even one single time in all of these books. Now, these books have been written between 1961 and 1992, plus some other randoms, right? Now, there were so many ways I could have done this, but I don't want it to drag out. This is not supposed to be torture, right? Bang. Let's hear what Siculus said, because you've got to balance out the enormity of what he said and then go, hang on, but so what is going on, right?
And he wrote, I think in his Histories Volume 1, he said that it is even said by some that Daedalus crossed over to Egypt and in wonder at the skills shown in the building, built for Minos, king of Crete, a labyrinth like that in Egypt, in which, so the tale goes, the creature called the Minotaur was kept. Be that as it may, the Cretan labyrinth has completely disappeared, either through the destruction wrought by some ruler or through the ravages of time. But the Egyptian labyrinth remains absolutely perfect in its entire construction down to my time. And Diodorus was far from the only person to talk.
Now, did you hear what is being said? This guy, did you hear what he just said about the labyrinth? That it's boom. I saw it. Bang. But he doesn't exist. He's in none of the books. So where are we at? Let's carry on.
About the labyrinth. In fact, he visited it, and he does write more about its structure. I mean, he writes in it, one of the things he says, and to give an idea of it's like the labyrinthian nature of it, he says about the Egyptian labyrinth, for once in, it is impossible to find a way out again without difficulty, unless one lights upon a guide who is perfectly...
This person, this Siculus, he's telling you he's walked in there, and he knows that you need a guide. He has been inside the labyrinth, far out. But, look, do we really need to play this game?
Acquainted with it. So by all accounts, this is a pretty complicated structure. Other people throughout history have talked about the labyrinth. Most notably, perhaps, is Herodotus, that great Greek.
That's not all about Siculus. We go back to him. I'm saying that's not everything, right? Herodotus never liked the sound of this guy. He's like the Galileo. Herodotus, he's all over the shop. He's like one of the giants. You know, everybody's standing on the shoulders of giants. That's what these people are. But it's not even worth going in. I mean, I've done the whole sections on him. Herodotus, right? What I will say is everything that is in here, everything that is in all of these books, I have looked for the word labyrinth as well. And it only came up twice and had nothing to do with the Giza Plateau. Not one single word. So what is happening here is this stuff is being introduced into people's history. Books, guys, because all you have is Google. You have other search engines, but guys, ay, ay, ay. Now, let's jump, right, 10:45, right, 10:45. These are the things, right? These are it's the magnitude of what is being said.
There is something out there that is greater, that surpasses the pyramids, kind of boggles the mind, right? That it's not something small, it's certainly not something insignificant. So, you know, what are we talking about here? Are there any details in what these guys tell us? Well, in fact, if you read the historical accounts of the labyrinth, they do get into some description details.
But these historical accounts of the labyrinth are from people who do not exist. How is it possible that it goes back so far, right? And there's loads of people in here, but this labyrinth appears out of nowhere, and so do these people. And again, not once, not the word Siculus or Pomponius in any of these books, all right? I mean, I work these things out in 2 seconds. This is like, I cannot believe it needs to be explained. I cannot believe it even needs to be explained, right? So we've had Herodotus, whatever. There is no mention of any labyrinth. These books are here. If anybody ever wants to, if anyone ever wants to see a page, what is written, I will put all of the volumes up of what I've got and I will open them up. They're not a secret. I started collecting these about a year and a half ago. People were giving them away. Giving them away. It's the biggest tragedy because this is the only evidence. This, if I didn't have these, right, nobody would ever know. People would believe Sicarus and Pomponius existed. And for the next 100 years, a labyrinth, like the Egyptians building the pyramids. Just let me put this down here. Just real quick, okay? 25,000 Egyptians, it said. Right? 25,000 Egyptians. Now, just Giza, okay, has 2.3 million 2.5 ton stones. 2.3 million 2.5 ton stones. If we divide that 2.5 million to 2.3 million by 25,000 Egyptians, I think you'll find you get the number 92. These are only the building blocks, the basic 2.5 tonners. 92 each. They have to move, if they all have the equal share, 92 freaking 2.5 ton stones each. Then you've got all of the other stuff, like it's another 2 million tons or something, right? How did they even get one stone out of a rock face wall using copper hand tools? All of these theories. How did even one stone come out? Guys, what is going on, right? It's insane. This is the basic math. 92 2.5 ton stones for each Egyptian if there were 25,000 of them. What, are we stupid? And then we've got the other weight to go on top of it. 60 ton granite blocks. What is it, people? Where are y'all getting your wheat from? I mean, this should be over right here. How have people been talked into this, right? Look, let's not get sidetracked. Oh, by the way, Pyramid Giza weighs the equivalent of 100,000 Abrams main battle tanks. 100,000 Pyramid Giza, right? 65 tons. I've always said 6.5 million tons for Pyramid Giza. I've heard 7.5 million, 5.5 million, 6, 7. I've gone down the middle. You can take a few tanks off if you want. I've always said 6.5 million. 100,000 Abrams main battle tanks divided by 25,000 Egyptians. That is the equivalent weight of 4 Abrams main battle tanks each. This is a fact. How on earth would that have ever played out? Each Egyptian, 130, 260 tons each. Listen, this stuff, right? This stuff, it's an insult to people's intelligence is what it is. That's what it is. I'm going to pick that stick up and start hitting things. Right, we are going to go straight to 1340. Let's hear what Sicarus said. Oh, I get revved up. I'll turn it down.
When you love your dog like crazy, you can my dog.
If people cannot see what's going on here, right? I mean, it's awful, isn't it? Not one mention, all this. These names have been fabricated. Maybe not all of them, but I tell you what, Sicarus and Pomponius. God. Strabo, Pliny the Elder, and You wait until we get to Flinders, all right? I'm not here to make fun of anyone. I'm responding to what I've seen said, okay? Somebody has to. Right, skip, let's go. What are we doing? 1340. Right, here we go. So we're back to Siculus, yeah?
The ground. So these are all, you just remember some of these features and these descriptions, because we're going to get into them a little bit more and look at what they might possibly mean.
I didn't bother with Herodotus on the books, pointless looking, but he did say a lot of stuff about the labyrinth, right? We'll come back to that. We're just going to listen to this.
And for more descriptions of how the labyrinth was built and what its features are, we return to Diodorus Siculus here. Again, in his 1st century BCE Histories, Volume 1, about the labyrinth, he wrote, while in respect of carving and other works of craftsmanship, they left no room for their successors to surpass them. For when one had entered the sacred enclosure, one found a temple surrounded by columns, 40 to each side, and this building has a roof made of a single stone, carved with panels and richly adorned with excellent paintings. So I think Diodorus here is describing one of these courts, these columned courts. And he's describing it as having 80 columns in it, 40 on each side. Now, to give you an idea of scale, this is the Valley Temple. If anyone's been to Egypt and gone into the mighty Valley Temple, one of the biggest megalithic structures that we still have today in Egypt, it has 16 pillars in it. If you go up to the other end of the causeway, in the Middle Pyramid complex, the mortuary or pyramid temple at the end of that has 24 pillars in it. Maybe he was talking...
This is underground. 4 layers, 4 floors, right? With 90 steps going down to each one. Okay?
About something else. Maybe he was talking about something like this. This is Luxor Temple on a visit at night. There might be 40 columns here. These columns are made piecemeal from sandstone, but there might be as many as 40 columns in this. He's talking about something that is twice the size of this, twice as many columns, and that there were 12 of them. So you take 80 columns in one hall,
Football fields.
that's one of these halls, and now you've got 12 more of them, as well as 3,000 chambers. So this is quite a mighty construction. Now, one thing that he does say is that the roof was made of a single stone. I'm not so sure that would be the case.
This person who's said all this stuff does not exist.
Here, even I'm skeptical of that, because I think what he is referring to when he says this, we play that should go again, no, go back one.
Keep listening.
Go, and that way. Okay. So I think what he is referring to is probably the perfect megalithic structures and what these walls look like when they're complete and dressed. Today, in the Valley Temple, the surfaces of these blocks and the walls have spalled. Like, it's not that there's only a couple of sections that have these really flat, sort of mirrored finish, sharp-edged patches to them. Most of the surfaces of these blocks have like spalled off granite from the outside, and that gets worse at the corner, so it dips in, so you can actually see these joins. And they're obvious, right? Where the change in the joins between the stone. But when these things were originally finished, you would have had a lot of trouble differentiating and seeing the joins between the stones.
2021.
I suspect that's what Diodorus was making reference to here. Just going to skip forward here. So continuing with accounts in antiquity of the labyrinth, and these are important because they give us clues about where it is, but also about some of the modern work, the new work that's happened that has to do with it, the correlation to these claims. We have another account coming from Strabo, who lived over like the year 0. He went from the 1st century BC through to the 1st century AD. He was an ancient Greek geographer, lived in Asia Minor, travelled all around the place. He also visited the labyrinth.
2009.
In his, I think, geographies, he wrote, in addition to these things, there is the edifice of the Labyrinth, which is a building quite equal to the pyramids, so not quite as high praise as Herodotus, but close.
This is strong.
A great palace made up of many palaces, for such is the number of peristyle courts which lie contiguous with one another. Before the entrances there lie what might be called hidden chambers, which are long and many in number and have paths running through one another which twist and turn so that no one can enter or leave any court.
Right, now this is Strabo talking, right? He pretty much says the same as Herodotus, right? There is no Succulus or Pomponius in any of these books. Herodotus is in the books. So is Strabo. Strabo's in some of the books. I'd say 50-50, which is weird, right? It's a little bit weird. Usually they're either in just one or not at all, or in all of them, not 50-50. It's just something that's weird. It stood out to me, 50-50. But there is no mention anywhere in any of these encyclopedias of a labyrinth. None of them. Herodotus doesn't say a single word about labyrinths. This is Strabo now.
So again,
right?
We're getting the same description, right? Multiple of these big open courts with roofed in stone and with passages and hidden tunnels and chambers between them. Multiple levels.
1984.
And the wonder of it is that the roofs of each chamber are made of single stones, and the width of the hidden chambers is spanned in the same way by monolithic beams of outstanding size. For nowhere is wood or any other natural or any other material included. So again, he's giving us clues to the construction style of the labyrinth, and this is important because Strabo also visited other...
Guys, this is made up. They did this, they said that. They all said a single stone roof. There is not a single mention in any single encyclopedia. Guys, there must be loads of you with a set at home encyclopedias. Go and find Siculus and Pomponius. See if, and Labyrinth. Those names, right? So, Diodorus Siculus, not Herodotus, we're not going to bother with him, and Pomponius, right? Every single encyclopedia out there, where are they? What do I do with that one? Las Españolas. Where's I've got a set of Spanish encyclopedias, right? Why aren't they? Oh yeah, here we go. And they're not in that. I've got these for $20, right? Los nombres de esta gente no están en estos libros. No hay ningún Siculus, Sicululus o Pomponius. No existen. Pero esta gente han dicho que hay un laberinto en Egipto. Es imposible, porque no existen. Esta gente inventada. Están mintiendo. So, that was just for the Spanish speakers, right? So what we have, this is what happens, right? This is where's Strabo. So I'm gonna put it up there. So there we go. That's Strabo. See that? Now, if you read it, it's just general stuff. Just general stuff. Now, this is what I mean. I could go through every encyclopedia and bring it up to you guys and go, look, I'm not lying, right? They're here. Anybody who has an encyclopedia can check this stuff. If you're going to throw encyclopedias away, don't. But if you have to, give them to me, right? Guys, this is your only written record. Can you not see what is happening? When we, not conspiracy theorists, because if it's true, it ain't a conspiracy. They are rewriting history, right? It's all one big package, right? These claims, 100,000, it was 102,000 on the first day, and people believe it, a labyrinth spoken about by people who do not exist, right? Oh, golly, honestly, it wrecks me up. So Pliny the Elder, the difficult stone, that calcite, look, I'm not even going to go there, right? Let's go to Pomponius, 2525. See, it's hard to know where to go because there's so much. It's shocking, is what it is.
Levels, this is all.
More ads. Guys, this stuff. How on earth do 25,000 Egyptians quarry 2.3 million 2.5 ton stones? How do they quarry even one? These people that come up with these theories need to get their asses in a freaking limestone quarry and they need to start carving with proper hand tools. These theories are insults to people's intelligence because there is no explanation for even how one stone was carved out of anywhere. And for those of you that say, yes, there is, I've seen it, this guy did this.
And growth opportunities wait for
Do it,
no one.
show us.
You need a powerful
It
supply
cannot be
chain
done.
finance
And if it
solution.
does get done,
You
it
need
would take
architects
forever.
deliver
One
to you
stone.
the power to
We have
change.
2.3 million, 25, look, why am I even saying this? It's like living in the twilight zone. Right, let's go.
Include
Boom, boom, boom. We are going to Pomponius, 2525. Guy's a legend, right? It's just unbelievable.
90 stairs between different levels. This is also a really interesting clue
25
to just how big and how many levels
Coming
there were to the labyrinth. One more. Pomponius Mela. 1st century BC. He was also a Roman geographer. Some of the works that he wrote were in use until the year 1500. He also talks to us about the labyrinth. And he says, the buildings of Pasamich, the labyrinth, include within the circuit of one unbroken wall 1,000 houses and 12 palaces. And is built of marble as well as being roofed with the same material. So again, this white calcite, the marble, all these halls, the 12 halls, the 12 palaces, all surrounded by a wall and with a roof. It has one descending way into it and contains within almost innumerable...
Look, it's all the same. An explanation for the labyrinth. They've been there, they got lost in it, probably got drunk in the labyrinth. Now, this could go on forever, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to go straight to the things I think matter. Let's go and check Flinders out, okay? 3420. I didn't know what I was going to do when I come up here, so I'm winging it, but you need to listen to what is being said, folks. Right, here we go. Now, this is the Savage. Let's go.
Favourite characters throughout the time and history with Egyptology and the ancient world. It's not until Flinders Petrie turns up to do the first real large-scale excavations to explore this site. Now, he wrote prolific author, he talked about Hawara in 2 or 3 different books, probably most importantly, 10 years digging in Egypt, and then later on, 10 or 12 years later, Hawara, Bihamu, and Arsinoe. He had 2 big seasons at Hawara. One was 1888 to 1889, and then 2 decades later, 1910 to 1911.
Listen to what is being said about this guy, because he's in lots of books, and everywhere his name is mentioned, I've got it. And we are going to look and we're going to compare what is being said to the pussycat that he really is.
And his initial interest was in the pyramid on the site. He actually is the guy who identified it as the pyramid of Amenemhat III from the 12th dynasty. But his primary focus was the labyrinth. He was well aware of the historical authors. He was using them as a guide. And that's what he was trying.
I'd just like to repeat. there is not one single word, labyrinth, right, in any of these. I lie, I saw it twice. It had nothing to do with the labyrinth that they're talking about here. All of these people, some of them are in the books, two of them are totally fictitious, right? But none of them, the ones that are in the books, ever mention anything about a labyrinth.
And investigate primarily at Hawara. Now, what's interesting about the pyramid here is it's not like the other pyramids. So, you know, these mud brick pyramids, people often think of the Giza pyramids, the massive stone pyramids. Egyptians kept building pyramids. I mean, even though, you know, we can argue about whether or not those are Old Kingdom pyramids or older. However, the pyramids after that time were generally smaller. They were nothing like as sophisticated or complex. They were made from mud bricks. But all of those older pyramids, all of the ones at Giza, always had their entrance on the north side. There always this main entrance goes through the pyramid in the north side. This pyramid's quite different. The entrance, there is a structure beneath it. I hesitate to say it's an entrance into the pyramid. I don't think it is. The pyramid was built on top of something because the entrance is below ground level here on the southwest corner of the pyramid. It's actually on the southern side of the pyramid in the western corner, the western end. And you can see it's actually made of massive megalithic stone. It's a descending passage that goes down into a structure beneath this pyramid. Everything on top of that is mud brick. Now, Petrie, being the guy he is, was the first one to explore this, and he actually cracked it and found what was beneath this pyramid. And I write here that Petrie was a savage because Petrie was a savage. There are so many stories about what Petrie got up to during this period. It's actually crazy to read these accounts. But because the entrance to this pyramid was on the southwest portion of the pyramid, he couldn't find it. So Petrie actually had to, he thought, okay, this will probably be on the north side. So he started cutting into the pyramid from the north side. And this is what he wrote about this, because he just try to imagine what this might have been like. He says, the sand between the bricks was in very thick layers, usually 1/2 to an inch, and being quite dry and clean, it ran out interminably in some parts, coming down in an hourglass, like an hourglass from the joints. It was needful, therefore, to board up the roof of the tunnel all along, as no native would treat the place with sufficient tenderness to avoid loosening the bricks overhead. I had to fix every board myself as the tunnel advanced. The bricks, moreover, were so large and heavy, being double the size each way of an English brick and weighing 40 or 50 pounds, that a single one dropped on a person would have settled his moving powers for some time to come.
It's been made up.
It was needful, therefore, to use the greatest care in loosening and taking down the bricks. So he's cutting into the pyramid from the north side, and he eventually finds it. So this is actually a rendering from Keith Hamilton, a friend of mine.
1911.
I'm sure some of you have heard of Keith Hamilton's excellent work. He produces a lot of these layman guides to different structures, and he creates 3D renderings based on measurements from guys like Petrie. Phenomenal work. You can find all of his work, academia.edu, I think. This is the picture that he has created based on Petrie's accounts and measurements. So Petrie cuts into it from the north side. You can see the south side's kind of where that ascending passage is. So he's cutting in and he hits those roofing blocks.
How?
This one. Right, so he eventually discovers, he accesses the megalithic story, and he gets into these roofing blocks. And these are massive blocks of stone, like they're granite. They're like 4 feet thick or 5 feet thick. He actually had to stop his season because his stonemasons were like, nah, we're not doing this. He said, you got to cut through this. I'm like, we're not cutting through this. So these dudes left. He went through 2 or 3 of them until he found some stonemasons who were willing to do the work to like cut through 4 or 5 foot thick granite beams.
Right there. What the fuck? They cut through 4 to 5 feet. I'm 5'10". From here to there, but boop, cut through it. 5 feet of granite in 1911. How? This is the thing. How did the Egyptians quarry even one single stone? How? This stuff, it's not even an insult to people's intelligence anymore.
Get into it. And so he then drops into that central chamber in here, and so he starts trying to explore it and figure out where's the entrance to this, like where does this go? And just listen to this. This is one of my favourite accounts of anything Petrie. Can you just put yourself in his shoes for a minute and imagine?
I'm a fantastic empathy doer. Yes, I can put myself in his shoes. I can. This stuff did not happen.
And what this was like, and why I think Petrie was he was just a savage. Thence I went exploring through the passages. So after he's dropped into the central chamber.
Cut 5 foot.
Up the east passage, the muddy earth rose nearly to the roof, and we had to crawl through. At the south end of this, there seemed to be no exit, but a slight gap under the southeastern trapdoor showed that there was a way. And clearing out some earth, I got in far enough to stick tight, and I knocked the candle out.
Guys, they just cut into a pyramid somehow, and then cut through 5 feet of granite. 5 feet of granite. And now he's jumped into the hole, pitch black. Egypt, 1911. Nobody's been in there. Superstitions and this and that. And this guy's just kicked the door in and he's crawling around from one side of a pyramid to the other, but underneath. Guys, this stuff does not happen. Well, it doesn't.
Through a pyramid, he shoves himself in a hole and he's like with a candle, and he knocks the candle out. Matches had to be fetched as we were streaming with the heat so that nothing could be kept dry in the only garment I had on, so it's also insanely hot and humid. I recently went under the Black Pyramid, the mud brick pyramid of also Amenemhat III, funnily enough, at Dashur, and it was hot. It's humid, hot underneath those things. It's a difference to the stone pyramids. They seem to radiate heat, but the mud brick ones, they just seem to trap heat or something. Under the stone, I got into the southeastern chamber, and then to the south passage was so nearly filled with mud that we had to lie flat and slide along it, propelled by fingers and toes. At last, I reached the southwest
Who's
chamber.
holding the
The flight
candle?
passage being level did not promise.
You have to put yourself in this position. I can. How do you flat on your either your back? It didn't even say back or stomach. He just said lying flat, but propelling themselves with their toes and their fingers in the pitch black of a pyramid. They've just crawled through mud and it's black and pitch black in unknown surroundings, and their stuff does not happen.
A way out. The lean lad got up over the top of the first trapdoor in an incredibly shallow space, but found no exit. Then I slid down the narrow forced hole beneath the trapdoor and waded through the water in the antechamber. So in this antechamber was also half filled with water when Petrie was in there in presumably 1911 or around there. There at last I found a passage sloping considerably upward and knew that we were in the entrance passage. The way was worst of all.
Stop. Right. Let's start. This is all about Petrie, the savage, okay? Now, let's go to, where's that? No, this is, right. So, this is the first one, 1961. Petrie, he's in here, right? I'm thinking, uh-oh, we're in trouble now. He did do all this stuff. So, Sir F. Petrie, 1961 Encyclopedia, page 209. Everywhere he's mentioned, we're going to have a look. And this, we are going to have a look together. Now, this is all that is said of Petrie in this book, right? Between those two black marks. Some very ancient buttons were discovered by the English... by the English Egyptologist, Sir Flanders Petrie, right? Are you getting this? Sorry, you have to read it. Buttons. So, 1853 to 1942, a number of years ago in a tomb in Coptos in Upper Egypt. One of them went back to 2500 BC. A hole had been pierced through a projection on the back button. It's not the Petrie. It's not the same Petrie. Okay. Now let's keep going. Right. 1961. Where are we? I've got 2005. We've got 2009. We have the 1975 in depth. Now, where's my glasses? After I've been through all of these books, I've got one set, right? I need to make sure you're seeing this. And it's encyclopedias, right? In depth. Knowledge in depth. Now you'd think, right? If this guy is doing this stuff, it's all about him, right? Now, and by the way, there's no Pontius, all right? But Sir F. Petrie in depth. Let's have a look. 1975. Right. I'm going to move you a bit. Look, I haven't got the technology, right? Who needs the technology when you've got common sense? Right. Now, where are we? So, Petrie. Sir Flinders Petrie, a renowned English archaeologist and Egyptologist, made valuable contributions to the techniques and methods of field excavation and invented a method of sequence dating that made possible the reconstruction of history from the remains of ancient cultures. Born at you guys can read it. William Matthew Flinders Petrie was named for his maternal. Let's see, then they do all of this stuff. We don't care about the family, do we? A frail child. Stop it. At the age of 24, see, it just goes on and on. Ancient measures from the monuments, a work that represented a new approach to archaeological study. Fieldwork done at various locations in Britain, including Stonehenge, enabled him to determine by mathematical computations the unit of measurement, plans, description, and theories. Oh, I just jumped a line. It was published in 1880. Now, here we go. And in that same year, he began the surveys and excavation of the Great Pyramid at Giza. You getting that? My thumb's there. See that there? Of the Great Pyramid of Giza, which initiated his... Look, I'm trying to do two things at the same time here because I need you to believe what I'm saying, right? Let me read this properly. It's not like I'm going to lie at this stage of the game, is it? Right, let's go to... where are we? Great Pyramid of Giza, which initiated his 4 decades of exploration in the Middle East. During the 1884 excavation of the Temple of Tanis, he found fragments of a colossal statue of Ramses II. In 1885 and 1886, at Naucratis and Daphne in the Nile, he uncovered painted pottery, by which he proved that those sites had been trading colonies for the ancient Greeks. It goes on and on, right? He first applied his principle of sequence dating. It seems to be all about this sequence dating. Let's go over to the other page. Something Egypt. He made other important discoveries in the Fayum region of Egypt. At Garub, he found numerous papyri and Aegean pottery that substantiated dates of ancient Greek civilizations, including the Mycenaean. It goes on and on and on and on. There is not one single mention. Not one single mention of what this guy's saying here. Encyclopedias, and 1975 in depth. Sir Petrie. Oh, that's a Spanish one, right? We don't need to do that. Sir Petrie, 1979. I'm just pulling them out at random, but we are going to have a look at the modern ones. Right? No Pomponius, by the way, obviously. 1979. Let's have a look, see what they say about Petrie in this one. Don't forget, folks, don't forget what we're doing here. Let's have a listen again.
Yeah, as the ground was full of sharp crystals of sulfate of lime, and the walls lined with more crystals which cut like a knife. Scraping a clear way, I squeezed up this passage for as far as I could, and then began carefully measuring backwards through all the passages to the tunnel, so as to know the position of its entry.
Word. Listen to this. See, I don't even know what's said, but what I do know is it's nothing like what is being portrayed there. And you have to say to yourself, well, these are books, aren't they? Petrie, Sir Flinders. There are many kinds of petrels. Scientists have divided them into 3 groups. One group includes the... What? Oh, God, next one down. English archaeology. Served as Professor of Egyptology at University College, London. He founded the British School of Archaeology in Egypt. Petrie showed an early interest in archaeological research and investigated the ancient British remains of Stonehenge. In 1880, he began a series of surveys and excavations in Egypt that resulted in important discoveries. He founded the Journal of Egyptian Archaeology in 1911. Petrie wrote many works, including Stonehenge. No. That's it. Now, he made famous discoveries. There's no labyrinth in here. If there were a labyrinth in here, just one time, it would give it some kind of maybe, not once. 1984. Obviously, no Pomponius, but we've got Petrie. Let's see what they say in here. And once again, do not forget what is being said.
The savage who's crawling around in the pitch black underneath this pyramid, streaming heat, eventually on.
Right. What does it say in this one? Petrie, Sir Flinders, right, about there, right? English archaeologist, British school, that's the same. All right, well, this has got the exact, it does happen. Some of these encyclopedias, it's like, bang, bang. I've just been stamped the same. Every single word, right, about, and it can be 5 years, 10 years apart. If the people that they're talking about, they're not using them for something, they just lie idle in the book. But they can spring them to life whenever they want. I'm telling you. Slam dunk. There's like loads of sleeper names in all of this stuff, right? Some of them, just nothing. But they're there. And then when something like this happens, they put batteries in them and they start doing superhuman stuff. Right, no Pomponius. Right, let's do the hardcore thing. Because we could just go on forever, right? And it's not about that. What needs to be understood is there are 2 sides to this coin. And they are literally 1 heads and 1 tails. They've got zip in common. This ancient Egypt, I mean, look. This is the book. Look, I throw about and treat it like a punch bag sometimes. Look at this. Look. I mean, right? Now, I went into the back, found Petrie, and every, you know how they go, right, he's on page and up, he's on page and up. All of them. 2005. So this is this is news, like 20 years old, right? You'd think all these tales, right? Would there not be something? What the crazy thing is, there'd still be people going, that's not evidence, mate, that's nothing. That's the kind of planet we're living on right now. I mean, people need evidence that they didn't go to the moon, for crying out loud. First one, page 44. how long it took me to do all of this. Okay, here we go. I've circled it. There's all these little things, right? This is the first one. Wavy handled pottery. In the late 19th century, in order to establish a chronological sequence for the pre-dynastic period, the great Egyptologist Flinders Petrie founded the relative dating method of serration, which was largely based, you can read, can't you? Handled pottery. This type of pottery originated in Palestine, soon incorporated. So it just goes on, right? Decoration that encircled the entire vessel. Finally, the vessel body became more cylindrical in shape, with a simple rope impression complete. I mean, this guy was, he like vases, that kind of a thing. Indiana Jones Petrie and the other Petrie. Sir F, page 68. Let's see what is said in here. Remember, everywhere his name is in this book, I have, circled it. Oh, I can't call that a circle. Another very interesting archaeological discovery of early temples is the limestone colossi of the god Min, which Petrie found at the southern temple site of Kuptos near Nakada. The colossal represent Min in his traditional, a colossal erect penis? Look, it doesn't seem too Indiana Jones-ish here, does it? Let's go to the next one, is page 104. Let's see what we've got up to this time, shall we? (104). It was the English archaeologist Sir Flinders Petrie, later dubbed the father of modern Egypt, right? Archaeology, who extrapolated the construction phases through which this pyramid went. He did this by observing the remains of the pyramid from the outside. Petrie's theory was verified when he returned to the site 20 years later. His assistant Gerald Wainwright bored a tunnel through the masonry from the eastern face of the pyramid during the 1910 to 12 seasons. Wainwright discovered 10 successive layers until he reached a point believed to him to be compact masonry, which would be the nucleus the layers leaned against, decreasing in height from the innermost layer to the outermost. Stone corners of these layers were sloping. I mean, that is just a little bit about a pyramid. Was there any mention of a labyrinth? No. Let's go to page... So we've got a no Siculus and no Ptolemus in this one as well, obviously. We're going to go to page 246. See what is said about him here. Stop that, will you? Right. The pyramid, along with their families. Flinders Petrie investigated Cahun in the 1890s and again in 1913. And he found a whole array of artifacts and valuable papyri. In some of the papyri are hymns eulogizing the king in what is clearly part of the funerary cult maintained in this priestly community. It's all made up. It's all made up. The whole lot is made up. Page 332. What does it say now? Horizon. Sir Flinders Petrie described the eastern plain as roughly the same size as Brighton and estimated that the population was probably around 50,000. In excavations, less than 20% of the site has been examined. In the centre lay the main city focused on the Great Temple. That's it. That's it. So, there's one more. Page 482. I hope people are understanding the level of deceit that is going on here. But it's obvious. The numbers, people, the numbers should be enough, right? It should never get this far, for crying out loud. Give them a finger and they take the whole arm. That's what's happened. They think they need to bring common sense back. Petrie's pavement, right? In 1892, Petrie uncovered a large painted pavement from he pronounced it to be the most important discovery artistically that there had been. You're listening to this, pavement, uncovered a large painted pavement from the North Harem, the most important discovery artistically that there has been since the Old Kingdom statues of Mariette. Its naturalistic designs comprise tanks of fish, birds, lotus, groups of calves, plants, birds, insects, border of bouquets and dishes. There were also illustrations of bound captives to be trodden underfoot by all who passed. Nasty. Petrie painstakingly covered the whole surface, 250 square feet, 20 square metres, of the plaster with a coating of tapioca water, gently applied with his forefinger. He then single-handedly erected a walkway to allow visitors to view the paintings without damaging the surface. For the next 20 years, the masterpiece became a major tourist. He's testing, seeing all this for what it is. And really testing that not many people can. What the fuck is going on? Look. Let's go. Let's start heading towards the end. Where's the remote control? Do not find the remote control. This could be a disaster. Because what I will do is press pause. See, this is what happens. What did I do with it? No. Right. What I'll do is pause that bit. Any other place it can be. This is my life, right? Gotcha. It's just about to pull the plug. Right, we are going to 105 geoscans. Now, I personally, yeah, okay.
He is also a champion of the Labyrinth. He's been funding a lot of this research over the last several years, so just shout out to him and his persistence in trying to uncover and...
This is just some random, okay? Apparently he's been chipping in because of the definite labyrinth that there is under there.
Make more people aware of the labyrinth, but this geoscan systems remote sensing is a similar it's a little different to what you've heard in this conference, but it's a technique that also works from space. This says that they can look some 6 kilometers deep using proprietary processing techniques.
Proprietary processing techniques. Listen, there is no evidence. Well, first of all, how is it that they found a labyrinth that none of the books ever mention? How is it that the people who talk about this labyrinth some of them aren't in any of these books, not one, right? And how is it that the ones that are in the books don't mention any labyrinth even once? This is a fact, not even once. So what's going on? Is this where the two realities collide, is it?
It involves modelling light and its interactions with matter based on more complete implementations of Maxwell's equations, coupled with a more complete understanding of the mathematical nature of the constant I, which is the imaginary number representing the square root of -1.
The imaginary number. Listen, you have to listen to what is being said.
From space, this says that they can look some 6 kilometers deep using proprietary processing techniques. It involves modelling light and its interactions with matter based on more complete implementations of Maxwell's equations, coupled with a more complete understanding of the mathematical nature of the constant I, which is the imaginary number representing the square root of -1.
The imaginary number. This is the technology that these geoscan systems run on. What is it that you guys can't see, right?
And including these new insights makes complete spectral analysis more complete. Filters are then applied, which allows the detection and identification of substances by a means similar to utilizing Fraunhofer absorption lines to observe substances in the atmosphere of stars. That
right there. Listen, people, there is no evidence for any of this stuff that they're talking about. There is no evidence for it. It's all up here. There's no, listen.
That's what I had heard about this technique, that it was used to determine, what's the chemical composition and substances of stars. But apparently you can utilize it to look beneath the ground. And then, of course, which comes along with a lot of these proprietary techniques, we regret having to withhold details of the process involved. It requires intensive computation utilizing computers, software, and special processing hardware to apply our techniques. The best way to know that these techniques are valid is to look at our results, particularly the special study we ordered recently, which detect.
What's this planet come to? Did you hear that? They're basically saying, listen, believe it or lump it, because this is the way it is. That's what that's saying.
Water in Morocco. So this is, if I have one problem, it's the verification of some of these proprietary scanning techniques is really hard to.
Let's go to the end. The object. The object. Ready?
It's not penetrating down into the bedrock. These are closed chambers that seem to be hollow and still there. So he said something else that I found absolutely fascinating. What is possibly down there? He said, and this is quoting Tim Akers, right, from Louis de Cordier, so a bit of hearsay here. Unfortunately, Tim's not around to confirm this, but this is what it said that he said. He said, all layers converge at a central corridor or avenue, like the atrium of a shopping mall, where you can see all floors from one vantage point. My personal interpretation is that this entire hall was constructed to house a centrally positioned freestanding object about 40 meters long. They found this object. The central object is hard to classify. It appears metallic, not stone or wood. I named it Dippy after the giant Diplodocus skeleton in the Hintz Hall of Natural History Museum. It could be anything. Its shape resembles those tic-tac hard mints. It might also be an upright disc or even a colossal shenring. That big object alone raises profound questions. How did it get there? Why is it there? A more speculative theory is that it's some kind of portal, either interdimensional or interstellar, a stargate. Its material signature is unlike anything I've seen in my entire career, but it's there, undeniably there. I'll let the future find out what Dippy is. So not only do we have this incredible structure that seems to have all of this remnants of history and it's contained by everything, but there seems to be a 40-meter long freestanding metallic object in a chamber beneath the ground here at Hawara. Seems like worthy of investigation. So let's talk a little bit about the correlation between all of the work that's been done at the Labyrinth and at Hawara. The Matterhorn expedition seems like it revealed only what would have been the very top level.
I can't listen to it anymore. That's why I can't listen to these programs, because I can see them for what they are. This is the truth, okay? These books prove the truth. They're books, they're encyclopedias, they're sets of books that have been printed between 1961, sound like I'm going to go to the moon, and 1992. Different sets of encyclopedias, right? And none of them, no Pomponius is ever mentioned, ever, and nor is Siculus. Herodotus, Strabo, Pliny the Elder, these people are in the books, but they don't even once, not even once, whisper the word Labyrinth. Not even once in all of these books. So you have to say to yourself now, do you believe the books which are here for people? People you have, some of you have them. Guys, if you've got friends that you've got encyclopedias and you've got one set, you could get together and start thinking. Do not give these up. If I had thrown these away and then saw this and I had read them all and I said, no, but I'm serious, I had it all. And people would go, yeah, right. Well, they're here, right? That is all a lie. There is no labyrinth in Egypt. If there is, why is it not in any one of the books? And why do some of the people who he keeps telling us spoke about these places, why do they not exist? Anywhere. But you Google Siculus. I dare, right? I will though after this, just to have a look. But this is what I always say, this is what I mean when I say that the search engines, they have you. You don't even realise what is happening. The only way you'll ever realise is by paying attention to books, because this is where, not accurate history, but you can see how they work. These people introduce people whenever they want. And this generation, this has only come out yesterday, straight out the station, right? I jumped on it straight away, lucky. The algorithm, who knows what is going to happen to this content? It's the truth, right? But that's the truth as well. And that is what the planet is up against. And this is happening in space as well. Bull, boosh, all of it. Buenas noches. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. I'll keep coming back with more. Don't worry about that.